How does the Brezhnev Doctrine relate to the concept of sphere of influence? Have you ever wondered how one country's policies can shape the fate of its neighbors? The Brezhnev Doctrine is a prime example of this dynamic. Let's break down how it connects to the idea of a sphere of influence. The Brezhnev Doctrine was a foreign policy principle introduced by Leonid Brezhnev, the leader of the Soviet Union, in 1968. This doctrine claimed that the Soviet Union had the right to intervene in countries within its sphere of influence to protect socialism. It aimed to prevent the spread of capitalism in Eastern Europe and beyond. Now, what exactly is a sphere of influence? It refers to a region where one country holds significant economic, political, or military sway over others. For the Soviet Union, this sphere included Eastern European nations and other socialist states. The Brezhnev Doctrine effectively limited the independence of these countries, imposing Soviet control over their political and economic systems. From a socialist viewpoint, the Brezhnev Doctrine was seen as a way to defend and promote socialism. The idea was that socialist nations had a duty not only to their own citizens but also to the global socialist movement. However, this approach faced criticism for undermining the sovereignty of these nations and restricting their ability to implement reforms. In practical terms, the Brezhnev Doctrine ensured that socialist countries remained aligned with Soviet policies. It prevented them from adopting capitalist reforms or forming alliances with Western nations. This strategy helped maintain the Soviet Union's influence in its sphere, ensuring that socialism remained dominant in these areas. The doctrine was put into action during military interventions, such as the invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968 and later in Afghanistan in 1979. These actions were justified as necessary to protect socialism from capitalist threats. However, the Brezhnev Doctrine was eventually abandoned by Mikhail Gorbachev in the late 1980s. This shift marked a significant change in Soviet foreign policy and contributed to the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991. The move away from the doctrine represented a shift toward greater autonomy for socialist states, but it also led to a decline in socialism's global influence. In summary, the Brezhnev Doctrine and the concept of a sphere of influence are closely linked. The doctrine allowed the Soviet Union to maintain control over its sphere, shaping the political landscape of Eastern Europe during the Cold War. Understanding this relationship helps us grasp the complexities of socialism and its historical context.